Some fighters want to be called the deadliest in the game. Some want to be the most dangerous on the roster. Brandon Moreno, however, fits the criteria for the most wholesome fighter to step foot in the octagon. Don't be fooled by his looks and down-to-earth personality though, cause the man is one of the meanest and deadliest fighters ever inside the octagon. But other than his fighting skills, Moreno's had a hell of an early life, and his story is definitely as inspiring as his fighting style. Did you know about the insane obsession he has for Legos? Or what about the fact that he used to make piñatas for a living? Or that being overweight as a kid was the reason he started MMA? So join me as we explore 10 fascinating facts about Brandon Moreno. Number 10. He used to be a piñata maker. You already know the assassin baby's got a knack for his fists, especially if you saw him going nuts on Figueiredo in their last bout. But before the punching bags, there were piñatas. That's right, Moreno's family used to be in the piñata business, which led him to have an interesting childhood. Surely you would have smashed a piñata once, but if you ever thought about the effort that goes into making one, Moreno will answer all your questions. Maybe piñatas aren't that hot in the States, unless you live in Los Angeles, of course. But in the lively city of Tijuana, Mexico, it sure made for an interesting daytime job. That's exactly why Moreno kept helping out with the family business while pursuing his passion for MMA, right up until the age of 22, when he got a spot on The Ultimate Fighter. That's when he laid down the club, put on his gloves, and never looked back. His parents, on the other hand, are still just happy to keep the family business running. Number 9. He comes from a humble background. Sure, piñatas were hot in Mexico, but I wouldn't exactly call them $1 million business. To give you an idea, Moreno's family wasn't so well off that they could indulge in his MMA interests. At first, they thought it was just a hobby for him, and so did the little guy himself. Brandon wanted to grow up and become a lawyer, and so did his mother, until he fell in love with fighting. In order to fully devote himself to the sport, Moreno had to drop out of school, and that was just not possible for his parents unless he made up for it by supporting his family. That's exactly what he did. A young Moreno made piñatas during the day and trained during the night, just so his family could make ends meet while he focused on his dream to become a world champ. Number 8. He took up MMA at 12 to lose weight and never looked back. Remember how I told you Moreno wanted to become a lawyer? That was actually true. His mom claims he'd mapped out his goals from when he was very young, and being the bestest lawyer was one of them. However, at the age of 12, Moreno had bigger problems than his future. His present state was concerning for his mother, seeing how Moreno was overweight, and we all know an overweight kid never has it good. So his mother enrolled him in the local Entram gym to help him lose some weight. And as luck would have it, Moreno went full MMA to help him achieve his goal. Safe to say, he doesn't regret the decision 18 years later. Number 7. He's a big fan of Legos and collectible toys. Yup, one of the deadliest fighters and the #1 flyweight in the UFC roster is actually a kid at heart. Instead of buying the usual mansions and Lambos, Moreno spends his paychecks buying Legos and toys. His enormous collection includes a Hulkbuster from Marvel, a Batmobile from DC, a Flying Dutchman from Pirates of the Caribbean, and many starships from Star Wars. But it doesn't end there. Like a true collector, Moreno also has a huge collection of Funko Pops of many comic characters and UFC fighters like Khabib and McGregor. In fact, Moreno's post-fight celebrations also include a trip to the Lego store instead of champagne and partying all night. When asked what changed for him since he became a champion, Moreno claimed nothing, except the fact that he had more money to spend on Legos. Who knew the best 125er on the planet would also be a master builder? Number 6. He actually got cut from the UFC back in 2018. Moreno had a pretty decent start in Octagon, winning 3 consecutive fights, only to lose the next 2 as well. Still, a 3-2 record isn't that bad, right? Wrong. You never know what's going on in Uncle Dana's head. And despite the fact that Moreno was in the top 10 rankings at the time, he was cut because of the 2 back-to-back losses. Thankfully though, his departure was short-lived. And after winning the LFA title, Moreno rejoined the promotion a year later in 2019. Ever since then, the Assassin Baby has only faced 2 losses and had 6 title matches. So I guess Dana's not always right. Number 4. The meaning behind his nickname. The baby in his nickname is definitely confusing, especially seeing Moreno as 5'7" and already tall for the flyweight division. But maybe forget the height, zoom in on his face a little bit and see him destroy guys in the octagon, and you'll get why the assassin baby makes sense. Plus, the guy's wholesome personality goes hand in hand with his baby face. So when Moreno started fighting professionally at 17, the nickname Baby Assassin stuck with him. Now, that might sound fine in Tijuana, but when Brandon moved to the States, some people told him it sounded more like he killed babies instead of resembling them. To cut it short, Moreno had to shuffle the words and voila, the assassin baby was born. Number 3, he is a proud girl dad. Maybe the former champ thought his parents were a little tough on him, but he probably doesn't think that anymore because he understands the responsibility of having a family himself. Moreno and his wife Shirley are the proud parents of 3 beautiful girls. His eldest daughter, Maddie, is 10 and she already loves what her dad does. She's a budding gymnast and she started taking lessons in BJJ already, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her walking in her dad's footsteps in the future. The middle child, Megan, and his youngest, Morgan, are 5 and 3 years old now. Even though they don't understand much about the nature of his job, Moreno still loves them with all his heart. And you might have even seen his Insta filled with pictures of his daughters. Number 2. He fought in UFC's first ever tetralogy. Who doesn't love a revenge moment? Wait, let me rephrase that. Who doesn't love a revenge arc? Because that's exactly the story between Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. These two have gone up against each other 4 times in just 25 months. Moreno first met Figueiredo in December 2020, when all the odds were against the assassin baby, and he was a massive underdog. Still, Moreno led the fight to a surprising draw, only to win a rematch in June 2021, and then drop the title by a very close decision loss in early 2022. Both Moreno and Figueiredo were 1-1 by then, until Moreno won the interim title against Kai Kara France, and went up against Figueiredo for the 4th time in his own home turf in Brazil. Moreno was dominating the fight, and in the 3rd round, he clipped Figueiredo with an over left hook that landed kinda weird. It looks like Moreno hit Figueiredo with his thumb right on his orbital bone and eye, causing a swelling that completely closed Figueiredo's eye, forcing the doctor to stop the fight, and in the process, Brandon became the first ever to fight and win in the only UFC tetralogy. Number 1. He's the first ever Mexican-born UFC champ. While Cejudo and Velasquez are both legendary former champs and have Mexican heritage, they're still not Mexican-born. Yair Rodriguez has the opposite case. He's one of the true Mexicans in the roster, but he's never strapped on gold. And that leaves us with Moreno as the only true and first ever Mexican-born UFC champ. From being an overweight kid, to being the last seed on The Ultimate Fighter, to becoming a 2-time flyweight champ, Moreno's had a tough journey and he's come a long way. And he hopes that other Mexicans can follow in his footsteps as well. Which of these incredible facts surprised you the most? Leave a comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe. But that's all for today. See you next time. Till then, remember to protect yourself at all times.